All right, guys. Cool. We're live on Facebook. Get started here. I'm Steve Richards with the CEO Nation. Good to have you guys here. It's our weekly webinar where I take different aspects of being the CEO of a business and break those down in a training, but also make myself available for coaching. So some of you guys that are on, I see several people on that I know you guys know I don't do lunches and breakfasts and dinners and drinks and all those kinds of things anymore to network or, get my brain picked. But I do make myself available every Monday for as much brain picking as you guys want. So I will get through a topic today. And today's going to be a cool one. We're going to talk about doubling sales revenue without spending more marketing dollars. And a lot of that has to do with the team structure. And this is actually kind of a part two to last week. If you missed it, we had a good friend Darren on, and he's not actually feeling too hot today, so he didn't want to jump back on as a live participant. I see that he's logged in though. But we were discussing with him this position that he wanted to hire within his company for inside sales. And we got heavy into the who, how, and when to hire, but we didn't talk a lot about the actual inside sales. So this is kind of a part two to that. Okay, hold on one second. I'm getting a message from a couple people as you guys can't see me. Send me in the chat if anybody can see me. Make sure you guys can hear me okay. Okay. Should be okay. You might, if you're having trouble, maybe try to scroll screens. My user's logged in twice to this. So my picture's up and then my live video feed's up. Matt, I can see that beautiful face. Is it my picture of my wife in the background? Is that what you can see? Because it's not my mug. All right, cool, guys. Let me swing back in here to get going. So last week, again, we were talking about who, how, when to hire. If you missed that, these are all, not only am I on live every Monday here on Zoom where you guys can engage, ask questions live, real time, but also this is getting piped into the CEO Nation Facebook group. So that's where you can catch the replay. That's where it will live in infamy forever. Many more people will end up watching it later on. So those are good places for you guys to catch the replay, or if you missed the live and you just want to see it in general. I know we cover a lot, and so it's nice that you can pause, rewind, and take notes and things like that. So if you missed last week's, go check that out. We went heavy into, again, who, how, when to hire. But today we're going to talk about a sales structure, specifically a couple different pieces, but the processes and systems that go into the sales structure, but more heavily the people that go into the sales structure. And I'm actually going to throw a PowerPoint up today, a little more organized than normal, because this is so important for you guys. And I see a lot of people that, a lot of our peers, a lot of the coaching students that we have that come through, there's this initial, I want you guys to watch out for this initial, like when sales take off, your initial gut reaction is to do two things. Just hire another salesperson or your first salesperson, throw them in the fire. And secondly, just to throw more money on marketing. So if you guys are in a position where you haven't hired yet and you're not investing in marketing, a lot of what we're going to talk about today will probably be down the road for you. But if you're investing in marketing dollars and you've hired sales or you want to hire sales, this is going to be exactly what you need to hear. And so it's not always, there's no cut and dry, perfect black and white path for everybody. But I think the stuff we cover today is going to be very, very helpful for most of you guys. I'm trying to see who all's on. Looks like we got a pretty well-rounded, most of you guys, I think I recognize the names. Yeah, this will be good. So let me do a little bit of housekeeping real quick. So if you're new to the CEO Nation, again, I'm Steve Richards, and the CEO Nation exists to help hustling, grinding entrepreneurs learn how to transition into CEOs who own businesses so that a business actually works for you rather than you working for it. We want to help you on your trajectory, help you in your path to becoming someone who actually owns something that serves them rather than becoming a slave to your business, so that you can get the time and money back. So all the money that we make in our business, we invest in marketing that has a return. We invest in people that will do things that not only grow our business, but take our time out of it, right? And then some of the money we keep, and then we can go spend that on our life. Our business should be such that we understand it well enough that we can put money in and we can hire the right people at the right time and apply them to that model, both of which free up our time and generate cash for us. If your business is not doing that, then more than likely you don't own a business, you actually just own a job. And that's pretty normal for many, many entrepreneurs. They think they have a business because they have a bank account, a tax ID, a website, clients. They have all that stuff, but none of that is a business. More than likely you're self-employed, and you may have a team even, but a business is systems and processes and revenue models and P&Ls and reports and KPIs and metrics and things like that. So there's two big levers that when you go from being just owning a business or self-employed entrepreneur or solopreneur to actually being the CEO of a business, which by the way is a continuum. You're not just like one day you've arrived. You'll slowly move out of the day to day, and it's a progressive path. But while you're on that path, the two big levers that you will pull are people and data. And so the data, meaning many times could be the demographic data or the different kinds of data you use to invest in marketing is a big piece of that. But even more so is what we call KPIs, the key process indicators. So these are the numbers that matter. It's if I spend this much money, I get this many prospects. And if I pitch this many prospects, I get to this many potential clients. And if I have that many potential clients, I get this much revenue and everything in between, right? It's understanding all the ratios and numbers to where I can actually proactively take control of the game. So there's a million metrics that matter in every different business, but there's some key metrics, some KPIs. The key metrics, there's usually 6 to 10 that it's kind of like, think of it this way in a football game or any sporting event really, but in a football game specifically, you guys can miss the entire first 3.5 quarters. I'll actually go all the way to the last minute of the game, turn the TV on, look at the scoreboard, and within 5 to 10 seconds, you're going to know most of everything that's going on. Yeah, you don't know how many pass attempts the quarterback has or how many running attempts the running backs have or how many tackles the linebacker has. But that stuff doesn't matter as much. It's more in the nuance. What you can see on the scoreboard is who's winning, how much time is left, who's got the ball, where is the ball, what down is it, right? And how many seconds are left on the play clock. Those 5 or 6 numbers, you can immediately have your head in the game, right? And so as you move from being an entrepreneur to a business owner, you want to be able to understand numbers like that to where you have these 6 to 10 numbers in your business, these key process indicators. And so that's a big, big piece of the main lever probably in the entire business is figuring that stuff out, because it's really hard to build a good sales process without knowing those. So today we're going to jump out of the KPIs. By the way, here, if you haven't done this, let me get you guys. Let me share my screen real quick. If you guys haven't, you can go to the CEOnation.com. The very top thing says get started. If you don't have this, this is free. It's a 25-ish minute video with an actual like action plan, like step-by-step action. You know nothing about numbers. We have this free training, the Ultimate KPI Guide. If you don't have this, definitely get it. This will start things off so that you can start moving towards what we're going to talk about today. So if you don't have any idea, this literally will help you whether you're already using KPIs or you're not. It's a 25-minute video. It's all free. There's actually a worksheet that helps you break down the different departments of your business. And then there's a getting started like action plan that will help you. Again, even if you're not tracking anything. Most people start by tracking one number in their account, and it's like the bank balance in their account. That's their KPI, not KPIs. The KPI is what's my balance in my checking account, right? And so this will help you get started with that. But today, we're going to jump beyond that. And you need to be working on that piece, because the data is the first lever that gets pulled in the business that makes massive leverage, is to understand your business. But once you do, you can start to effectively apply a sales team. Now, if you don't understand your business and you start hiring salespeople, just realize that many of you are going to do it. I know you will. I did it. But you're going to have a tough road to hoe, because you're going to bring people in and you're not going to know exactly what to tell them to do. You're not going to know exactly how to train them. You're not going to know exactly how to comp them. So if any of you guys have hired salespeople out there, to like, literally, if somebody has never, if you're on watching this and you've never had one of these, let me know, because I don't need to ask if you have, because I know all of you probably have. So just shoot me a chat if you've never questioned, did I hire the right people? Do I have enough leads? Am I paying them the right compensation? Should I give them a draw? Is it commission only? Is it a salary? Right? How long would it take to get sales going? How many leads does it take to get a deal? I could go on and on and on, right? But if you've had any questions like that, then you've got to take a step back and start with the KPIs. But once we're doing that, and or if you're like me, you're like a maverick and you're just going to go figure it out anyway, just make sure that when you bring the salespeople on, they understand what they're getting into, which is, you don't understand exactly what everybody's getting into, but you're going to treat them fairly, right? And you can sell the vision as an owner, I'm sure. But today I want to talk more about the sales structure, because again, we see so many people, so many of the coaching clients we have, like, this is like a massive, lever that we can pull off the bat. Is they're like, all right, cool, I'm getting ready to hire a sales guy, or my second sales guy, or third, and I'm going to go buy more leads. I'm going to go invest more in marketing. And what's so funny is those two things are typically the wrong moves for most people that are underneath $1 million in revenue. So I'm going to break that down and try to give you guys a structure that you can go from roughly 0 to 100 grandish, if that's where you are, up until about $1 million of revenue. This will probably be effective up until a couple $1 million of revenue. It's just you just kind of reiterate the process. And so I want to talk about that sales structure today. And I think I didn't do a great job on housekeeping because I kind of jumped in. I just saw a handful of people jump on late. So this weekly call, if you're here, obviously you found the link, you'll get invited to future calls on Zoom, but know that in the Facebook group, this is being mirrored in there. The replay is in there. And we'll do a little bit of housekeeping at the end. I'm going to let this training's probably going to go about another 35, 40 minutes max. And then I'll have time for Q&A at the end. So I forgot to tell you guys, I want this to be, I don't want you to sit back and just listen. I want you to be engaged. So if you have questions, just use the chat, and I'm going to try to watch that as we go. I'll do my best to answer those along the way. But at the end, I'll open it up, not just for questions on what we're talking about today with growing revenue without spending more on marketing and your sales structure, but I'll just open it up for any general Q&A. So let's see. Okay, cool. A couple people said hi. What's up, guys? All right. The first thing I want to talk about today is different stages of sales. And so I'm sure you guys will all fall into one of these, but in the startup phase, most times you're not going to have a team, right? You're going to be a solopreneur. The owner's probably doing all of it. And maybe you'll add an assistant, but during this phase, most companies are going to do somewhere between 50 to 100, maybe a couple $100,000. There are I've seen some people who have a high volume, very easy to fulfill business like Amazon, or I've seen some like high value, high ticket where the volume is really low, which is more consulting usually, where people have been able to get closer to the 300-400 without having to build any kind of sales effort. But more than likely, we're talking in the $150,000 of revenue or less as a startup is what I'm, kind of categorizing that. And so during that time, a lot of times as the owner, you're going to do it all. This is where it's interesting, because as an owner, you more than likely aren't good at everything that needs to be done in the sales process, but owning the company can trump all of that. There's a ownership and an accountability, right? A light at the end of the tunnel, and there's pressure and there's ownership. And because of those things, you'll figure a lot out. And during this time, one thing that you have to watch for is you'll think this is how it's done. And when you go to hire your first salespeople, a lot of times you're going to try to hire someone to backfill you. And if you bring them in, they won't have that same accountability and ownership, right? And they won't also have the autonomy. And you may not even understand the things and the decisions you made along the way to get things done. You might have said yes to things thinking, I'll figure it out later, right? When you bring someone in, they're not going to be able to do that. You've got to be very careful during this phase to understand what you're doing in the sales process and how that overlaps with what you're doing as the owner of the business for making decisions. One thing that helps around 100,000, give or take, when you start to get into the 1 to 150 and more, bringing an assistant on is a really, really smart move at this point, just to keep things straight, to make sure that bids or invoices or quotes or whatever agreements are going out, to make sure that calendar dates aren't missed, to maybe even help book people on the front end. But an assistant who may turn into some kind of leads manager in the future is a really, really good hire at this phase. Secondly, what'll happen when you get into that 150, 200,000, on up to 300 or 400, if you have, one of those businesses with higher volume or higher ticket, is you'll bring on a general salesperson to start to take your place. It's really good if you've already got the assistant in place so that the administrative work that goes along with selling is kind of separated out. Again, remember I said you've got to also remember the ownership, the management leadership piece of what you're doing. Make sure you retain that when you step back. And then when you bring someone into sales, you're going to bring someone in typically in outside sales if they're going to generally come in and take over the relationship piece of the business. You may actually be able to maintain the relationship piece of the business longer as the owner if the assistant can become more functional into what I would call more of a lead manager, where they can actually not just do admin work for you as the salesperson, but they can actually start to handle basic phone calls. I'm going to break down what those people do in a minute, but I'm just kind of glossing over these levels. Level 3 would be where you start to split the front end of talking to people on the phone and the prospecting and the closing. And so this is where what we talked about last week, if you're on that call, if you weren't, you can go back and watch the replay in the Facebook group. This is where an inside sales rep may come into play. Different than the assistant. This person can start to actually dissect some of the information and engage with clients. And at this level, we're typically talking about the 400 or 500 range up to 600, 700, 800,000. This model will repeat on into the million, 2 million and plus. But at this level, you're probably, as the owner, are out of the sales, or you have a second person working with you in sales. And this inside person starts to take a lot of the brunt of the work off your back. Again, I'm going to get into the nuances of each position in a second. And then fourthly, when you get to that half to 700, $500,000 to 750,000, or up to $1 million, this is when the second and third sales folks start to come into play. Remember when I said in the beginning here, one of the big mistakes that somebody makes is they quickly are doing everything themselves, and they grab someone and they throw them into the sales role without creating the structure of what the owner's doing, what the salesperson is doing, and what an assistant is doing. And so the person that gets thrown into that role doesn't have the autonomy the owner had. They don't have the administrative support they may need. And it's high potential, high risk for failure, right? So having that assistant in place, and then also bringing the inside salesperson in second, right, before you start adding a second and third salesperson, is also crucial, so that when you do hire second and third salespeople, they come in focused on closing business. They come in focused on making offers and negotiating terms and closing deals. So they don't come in having to be stuck on the phone talking to prospects who aren't ready to discuss a sell. All right, so I know this will help a lot if I let me get into this next slide here for you guys. Okay, this will help. This will add some context. Remember, if you guys have, just shoot in the chat if you guys have things along the way that you want to get into. So lead management, this would be the assistant type role. This is going to be a big key here. This person is probably one of the first hires that you'll ever make, and it can overlap with an executive assistant, or an executive assistant may come on and then transition into doing lead management work as they understand the business more and more. And so as a key role, this should allow you to go in the beginning, maybe when you're feeling stressed and you've done that first 50, 100, 150,000, maybe you even still have a day job when you started your business. This person can take a lot of the load off your back, and you should be able to dramatically grow sales here. Sometimes 25, 50, maybe even double your sales just with this hire. If you're a great closer and you've got a good lead flow in place, just getting more organized is a huge impact on the business. So this person, though, be very careful here. This person is here to sort out the trash, like the people that say, I hate you, quit calling me, quit sending me mail, whatever, or the tire kicking questions of people who aren't ready to talk or buy. And all they're doing is collecting basic contact info, and putting data entry in. They're not doing any connecting with the client. They're very administrative in nature, and they're very task driven. In fact, you don't want an extroverted person here. I don't want someone who's people oriented in the lead management role, because they'll sit on the phone and start talking to someone, and you're not going to train them or want them to waste their time doing that, and or start taking the client down the wrong path. It's very crucial that you hire someone with the right personality here, that they're administrative in nature and they're task oriented. This person's probably going to be pretty reserved as well, and they're going to be pretty calm in their communication skills. I'm going to break down some of this. I'm going to show you guys the actual avatar we use for lead management and inside and outside sales here in a few minutes. So we'll get some more in depth into the personality traits in a minute. Secondly, though, in inside sales, here's what's different about inside sales. They're still a little bit administrative in nature, but you want a hybrid. You're going to want someone that scores in the middle of being task versus people oriented. And this person's job is actually to go a step further and engage with the prospect and extract situational info. But this person's a setter, not a closer. So it's very key. This person should not be making an offer, and they should not be negotiating. In fact, they should, when they get price questions or they get buying questions, they need to deflect, and not in a negative way. They need to edify and say, oh my gosh, great question. Listen, you're going to love John, our sales guy. Actually, given the information you've given, that I've gotten here off, I think he's going to be the right one of our agents to talk to. He is so good, and he'll take care of all your questions. Let me go ahead and get a little bit more information, and then I'm going to get you set up so I can connect him, and then he'll get all those questions answered. That was a great question, right? So it's not like, oh, I'm sorry, that's not my job, I don't do that. That is just a big downer and a big negative energy flow into the conversation, right? It needs to be where they're engaging the person more, and they're edifying the company, and they edify the process, and they edify the team. You want them using people's first names. You want them saying, you're going to love so-and-so. Hey, the process is real easy. Our company can, perfect fit. I really appreciate this information you're giving me. It's making me feel really good. I'm so glad you called us, because this is exactly what we do, right? Edify, edify, edify. This person does start the rapport building process. So it's important that inside sales is capable of building rapport. So you should not hire someone who's super task oriented. You're going to want someone who's a little bit extroverted, moderately. So they have an interest in connecting, but they're able to stay on task. So they'll diverge a little bit, but they went out on the phone for 45 minutes talking to somebody, right? They realize, oh, I know enough about my task that I'm supposed to be on the phone for 10 minutes or less. Oh my gosh, it's been 11. They're thinking to themselves, I got to go. Right. And so it's a great hybrid position. This person is so key. So not only does the assistant come into play to create organization that will allow you to not let things slip through the cracks, is your first big savings on taking the marketing dollars you're spending and the leads you already have to stop bleeding through the cracks. But secondly, this person, what they do is begin this filtering process. They actually are revving the engines up to make closing easier for the leads who are ready to close. But for the ones who aren't, they're filtering those out, and they're going to put those into some kind of nurture or some kind of like secondary position, so that sales, whether it's you, a salesperson, or whatever your team looks like, can spend more time with less people. So they spend better quality time with less, but more qualified people. Not only because the people were found out in the inside sales process to be more motivated or more ready, but also because their pump was primed, because rapport has already been started. Edification has already been started. So this actually makes the closing process easier for your outside rep or for yourself as a business owner. So thirdly is the outside position. This is your closer. This is the person who takes the rapport that was already started and they deepen it. They come in because of the way the inside sales rep has set this up. And by the way, you could have a lead manager and inside sales be the same person. That can happen as you're growing. But because of the way it was set up, the outside salesperson comes in, and there's two key things. Number one is they've got instant authority because they've already been propped up by the person who talked to the prospect beforehand. Secondly, they've had the benefit of reading through the notes, and they've been able to gauge what's going on. So they come in with a better perspective. They're not worn out by the first 10 or 15 or 20 minutes of phone conversation, right? They're coming in fresh, ready to go. They've got a good perspective on where this client's coming from. And if the inside salesperson did their job, they've asked some questions that creates the outside person already comes in, and they're ready to attune, and they take the rapport that was already started. They launch from a higher authority position already, right? And the prospect is saying things like, "Oh yeah, Sally told me about you," or "Bill told me about you," or whatever it is, right? And they're already excited to talk to you. So they're ready to go. You come in, the salesperson or you comes in with a better perspective, and then you take the rapport that was started and you deepen that. And so deep rapport is what leads to trust, and trust is what needs to be developed so that when you present some kind of solution, which is in the form of an offer to your prospect, they'll actually be more ready to buy from you, because you can go into a prospect, and if you don't have trust and you come in and say something to them like, "This is what we can do and I think you should do," and they can be offended and upset. "How dare you tell me what to do?" Or, "Who's this guy or gal to tell me what to do?" You can put them off and kill a deal. Versus if trust has been developed, you can come in and actually be a little more pointed with what you're saying, and they'll thank you for it. They'll say, "Gosh, I already knew that. But geez, Steve, thanks for telling me. I really appreciate you being honest. I appreciate the fact that you're willing to, to push me in this direction. I've known I need to do it. You're right." The conversations go so much, they're more effective. They're more productive. They're more concise when you use a model like this with the setting and closing. Now, if you're a solo salesperson, gal or guy, you need to understand that these roles need to happen, and you have to switch hats and gears, right? You need to say, "Hey, before we get started, thanks for calling in. Let me get a little contact info. I'm going to get a file started. I just want to make sure I get this right. Okay, da, 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 da. Okay, first, look, here's our process. I need to make sure that I'm going to give you the best, offer possible, best solution possible down the road in a minute here or later. But here's what I need to do. I need to understand about your situation." Boom, lead management hat, inside sales hat on. You start to engage. And instead of edifying a different person, you edify yourself in a different role. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Let me write that down. I'm going to get back to that. That's going to help me a lot when I put together my solution for you. But first, let's stay here. Let me ask you another question, right? You can still edify what's coming, and it makes the prospect feel more comfortable, right? It's just easier when it's a different person who's setting so someone else can close, right? Think of it in terms of volleyball. The ball comes over, someone digs it, and then that's your lead manager. They just get it up in the air to anywhere. It can go anywhere on the court. They just got to keep it in play, right? The next person needs to set the ball. This is more precise, doesn't have to be perfect, but this is definitely more strategic. They need to understand what play and who they want to spike the ball, right? They're going to set the ball. And then when the person comes in to close, that person may be taking someone else on the team, maybe giving them direction, right, of where to spike the ball. But they're going to go into for the kill and try to score the point. The setter's not going to try to score the point. Now, in a very advanced inside salesperson, in a volleyball term, may realize, oh, there's not a defender right here, and instead of setting it, they may set the ball over right into a dead spot and score a point. But you don't want that very often unless they're very, very comfortable and good at that. That's a very advanced move for your inside salesperson to say, hey, let me go ahead and you know what? Let me go ahead and get some information over to you right now. You want them to stay in their lane, right? Dig, set, spike, lead management, inside sales, back end, close. And so it's really important to understand these roles, and you may do all of them, like I said. So while I'm running through, guys, I want to make sure, use the chat. I got this up. Use the chat if you guys have questions. We're already over a half hour in, and so I want to wrap this portion of things up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So I have some Q&A time. So if you guys have general Q&A, make sure you're thinking of those. But if you guys have questions on this, let me know. Or if this was like an aha moment or something really cool that you're thinking of that I can read out loud and share with everybody else here who's on, let's do that. So what I was telling you guys when you got on today was understanding how to double revenue potentially without spending more marketing dollars, right? So I want to recap where we've been. So number one is just understanding the function of an assistant or the lead management role will help you get more organized, because the first place people are bleeding out is just with things slipping through the cracks. Prospects who came in and you just forgot to get back to them. So that administrative role is the number one key thing that you want to put in place first. Secondly, is realizing there's a structure, a 3-tiered structure, which might be ran by the solopreneur owner of the company, or they could be 3 different people, or you may have several people in each one of these roles. It depends on your lead flow and the maturity of your organization, right? But there's the administration piece, there's the setting, and there's the closing, right? And understanding what needs to happen isn't just division of labor so you can get more done. It's a process that you take a prospect through so that they're more likely to buy in the end. So write this down if you guys are taking notes. So the closing process is inversely connected to the setup process, the rapport building setup process. And what I mean by that is this: the bigger and better the setup is, the smaller and easier the close is. The smaller and more basic and less connected that the setup is and the rapport is, the bigger and harder the close is. And so an effective inside salesperson, on the back of the number one thing, administration, nothing slipping through the cracks. Secondly, warming people up, throwing gas on the fire of the people that are hot, taking the people that aren't ready and sorting them out so that your closer's not wasting time, is the second key piece. So nothing slipping through the cracks administratively. Secondly, using inside sales to filter more qualified leads to the top. It's kind of like shuffling the deck. You reshuffle the deck. And so having whoever the closer is, spending more time with less people will relate in more sales. So you may think this yourself if you're the sales guy, or if you have salespeople, they'll tell you this: I need more leads. That is not true. There is a point in time where they need more leads in the very beginning. But what we have found is most good salespeople are effective with 25 to 50 leads. If you've got a really, really low scale, low connected, low engaged product sale, maybe they can effectively deal with 100 people. But even then I would be hard pressed I'd have to see the business to help you with that. We find that most salespeople, if they're engaging with more than 25 to 50 people at one point in time, they start to become spread too thin, and there's a diminishing return. And they're saying, just get me more sales, get me more sales. And what people do is spend more money on marketing. Not only does your return on your marketing dollar go down, you actually hurt the previous marketing dollars you spent, because they become less effective with the base leads they already had, not just less effective with the new leads they get. It hurts their whole base. You want your closers spending more time with less people. The less, the better. You'll need to figure out in your business what the sweet spot is. But again, it's probably in the 25 to 50 range max. They need to be able to say, I'm working with this client and this is what's going on, and this is why they're interested in our service, and this is what's unique about them. And they need to know their why, like why whatever your service or product is something they're seeking out. What's the non-financial reason, not the price? Why are they seeking it out? Why do they want your product or service? And you need to know that that prospect has spent enough time with your salesperson that they remember their name. So your salespeople should only have enough people so that they know what's going on with any of their active prospects. That doesn't mean that we're going to get into follow-up in a minute, nurture and follow-up. But this means that your salespeople know their clients, their leads. They need to know their why, and their leads need to know that salesperson's name. And if those two things are happening, they've probably got a good amount of leads to work on. They will close more business by talking to less people, almost guaranteed. So that brings me to another point, is the third piece I want to talk to you guys about that will allow you to dramatically, this is the biggest of all three, dramatically increase sales with the same marketing spend, is follow up and nurture. It is always easier to make a sale to a person who's already come in through your process and just didn't buy for some reason, or to resell to an existing client. Always cheaper. So you need to have a client management system and a lead management system in place so that when people come through and don't buy, you follow up and stay connected. And the more rapport you build and the better connection you have, the more you can create effective text messages or emails or newsletters, whatever it is. You need to stay engaged. And based on the life cycle of your service or product, you need to realize how frequently you need to hit that person up and stay connected. Because traditionally in most businesses, you will double your sales just with this one piece alone. And many times the inside sales rep and the lead management person that you put in place in the beginning to get more organized and get better at the current leads you have, once you're more effective, they'll have free time to be involved in nurturing and follow-up. And when they warm someone back up, they're not warming people from current campaigns over here all the time. So as people that come in from marketing or referrals or whatever are coming up and they're passing them over, they can go do the exact same thing over here and warm up all the people that have already bought or didn't buy yet. And when they warm up, it's the same thing. They set them back in the closer's lap. That one piece alone, which means when you bring someone in, you always collect their email. You find a reason to send them something. Hey, I want to send you something today, even if they're not buying, so that you have their contact info and they're used to you sending them things. You want to connect and engage enough and build enough rapport in the sales process, even if they don't buy right away, that they know, like, and trust you enough that they'll be willing to accept follow-up from you. Your salespeople need to put them into the right follow-up campaign because they knew what was going on with that person well enough to put them in the right follow-up campaign. And those follow-up campaigns will be email drips. There'll be automated text messages, ringless voicemail drops, right? You will also run promotions to those people. That alone can double the amount of revenue you do off of the marketing spend you're already doing. And it also gives you a way to bring in lead management and inside sales support. And if you don't have enough, leads on the front end coming in by working with all the past clients or leads who failed to convert, that gives them more to do and generates more qualified business for your sales folks. See, I got a couple questions coming in. Darren says, it's definitely useful for me. I definitely like the good cop, better cop relationship of inside and outside sales. Yeah, absolutely, Darren. So he said, so if the ISA only has 30 to 50 leads to work continually, what do you do with them the rest of their time on the clock? So I started talking about that, right? So the ISA will be always trying to get in touch with people they couldn't reach, because there's always a certain amount of leads that come in who just become hard to get a hold of. You may have them help by collecting metrics like tracking numbers and checking call logs and things like that. but most importantly, I think you asked that question before I said this, but they should be heavily involved in your follow-up systems, which is reaching out, say, to a client who just worked with you, say a week ago. They had some kind of business event, closing event. They may check in with them and say, how'd everything go? Did you get all the paperwork you needed, or did you have any questions? It depends on your product and service, right? But checking in with people and say, hey, it's your anniversary date. I don't know if you remember, but a year ago today, you came into our world. I just wanted to call and see what's going on. It looks like in here, the notes say such and such happened, right? The inside salesperson is enough of a hybrid people person that they can do those kinds of things, to check in with people, to follow up and ask how the sale was, to call and ask, hey, I'd really appreciate you if you could put a review on Google for us. I know that you worked with our sales guy, Billy, the other day, and the notes here say everything went great. I just want to make sure it did. Was there anything we could have done better? Right? And then they ask for a referral. Hey, you know anyone else? I know that this service worked out well. You just said, could you do me a favor? I'm going to send you an email. It's got a link. If you could go in and put a review on Google, I'd really appreciate it. You might even offer to send them a gift card for doing it. And then say something like, hey, do you know anyone else that might want to utilize our service? Right? And so that is a great use of the inside sales rep's time, where they're trying to resell or get even if it's a kind of client that you don't recycle, but just getting Google reviews, testimonials, and getting referral business out of those people is huge. So I've gone through several pieces here, all the way from the administrative piece to keep, things from slipping through the cracks, to inside sales, to edifying and filtering, how the outside person needs to spend more time with less people, how you can follow up and sell people that you missed, and or sell business to current or past clients, and then checking in to get things that help with generating more leads, which is like Google reviews, testimonials, but also asking for referrals. So that is the gamut of what's available to you. And by the way, all of those things will dramatically increase your sales. I could argue that 2 or 3 of them could double your sales alone if over a period of time, right? And they can keep multiple people busy. So when you get into a position, it's not always about just hiring another outside straight salesperson. It's specifically, almost never, incremental growth is almost never just doubling down on marketing. Now, throughout this process, if you know your KPIs, like, hey, how much money I spend, how many units of marketing it gets, what my response is, what my conversion, when I understand that, those numbers, I can invest more heavily in marketing, right? Now, this is a key. If you guys don't get anything else from here, from this whole training, this is definitely something that you want to write down and understand. Building the structure this way without doubling down your investment in more salespeople and more marketing by using the lead management, the administration, inside sales, outside sales model, especially if before you grow too big, you're the outside person and you get a setter and you have an admin, that model spreads the responsibility enough and gives you enough volume growth that you will have the data, all the data you need will come from that growth by hiring an assistant and an inside sales. And you will probably more than likely, if not almost, but double revenue or profit margins off of that setup right there without increasing marketing or salespeople. But this is the key. It unlocks the rest of growth for you, because what happens during that, and you have these people track, how many people did you talk to? Well, how many does it take to get a qualified lead? How many responses does it take to get a lead? Right? They are filtering that stuff out, and everybody's tracking what they do really well. That's the information you need to start to unlock how to generate traffic and how to convert it so that you can invest in more marketing effectively. So you can invest in more salespeople. So you will unlock how to scale your business, and you will learn your business more while you actually grow your sales. And this is, by the way, a natural progression from you to go from doing it all to getting an admin, to getting inside sales, then to getting outside sales. And then at that point is where you understand the game better. So you invest, you take what you learn, you invest in marketing, crank it up, bring another salesperson in, crank it up again, put another salesperson in. At that point in time, you have the ability to probably bring in operational or fulfillment people to back end to start to do that piece of business. This is how you can back out as a business owner, is through this, and ensure you're not wasting your marketing dollars. All right. So I know we covered a crazy amount of stuff. I want to make sure that we got a little bit of time for Q&A. What questions do you guys have? Chat them in. By the way, I'm going to post this. I'm going to chat this out to all you guys, this link right here. That link is to set up a strategy call. And so, especially last week, we kind of got blown up. And I'm going to show you guys some reports in just a quick second because I want to make sure I do that during the Q&A. But we talked about our Team Architects product, which is the company that we own that does personality cognition testing. And frequently we're talking about our coaching students. And so people are asking a lot of questions, and I just get on and like fire hose everybody, and it's just a lot of information every Monday. If you noticed, we sent a recap out last week. If you didn't see that, it's in the Facebook group. There's a PDF you can download. We've got a PowerPoint today. We're trying to organize this so you guys can actually like better take notes and kind of better discern what we're covering and give you guys more of a takeaway so that you can implement a little better. And then also we get a lot of questions about working with us. That link is where it starts. If you're hiring or building a team, or you don't know if your people that you currently have are in the right position and you want to work with our Team Architects company, starts with that link. If you're interested in our coaching, our training, starts with that link. If you want to connect for some other reason, you want me to be on your podcast or come speak at an event, if you have something that you want to connect with us, you just feel like deep synergy and maybe I can interview you on our podcast, which, by the way, we just released part 2, I think, is coming out this week of a local guy here in town who went from being a help desk guy at an IT company to becoming a high paid consultant, to owning a software product that he sold in the 8 figures about 2 to 4 weeks before COVID hit, which I don't know if it would have messed his sale up, but it's real interesting. Didn't go to college, a local grown guy, and again, had an 8-figure business a software that he built. And it's a cool story of how he got there and what he learned and kind of the interesting thing that happened after he sold his business when he exited. There was some interesting stuff. And that was a 2-part podcast. That's the CEO Nation. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, it's wherever. But maybe you feel like you have something to offer our tribe and you want me to interview you. I'll tell you, if you're killing Clubhouse, we got to connect. I would be embarrassed to show you my screen time app because I'm not on Clubhouse all the time, but I just turn my volume down. And if you don't know what Clubhouse is and you don't have an iPhone, don't worry about it because you can't get on anyway. But literally every time I get on there, I'm gaining 20 or 30 followers. I'm getting more people on Instagram. We're connecting with clients. I'm meeting people. I've booked. If you guys have heard of Tranual, like they have ads all over social media. The other night I was in a room on Clubhouse. I met one of the founders and he's going to be on our podcast. And then 2 nights after that, I met a guy named Corey who's into mindfulness, like getting connected. And he's been on Dr. Oz 5 times. He's been in the O magazine. He's been in Good Housekeeping, Martha Stewart. And we talked in the same room. I sent him a DM on Instagram. He's going to be on the podcast. So, man, Clubhouse has been really, really cool. So, but again, if you want to connect with anything that we're doing, this strategy link is the place to do it. And I posted it in the chat. So I don't see any questions coming in. So either A, all of you guys are unbelievable ninjas and I didn't fire hose you as much as I thought I did, and you all got it and you're going to go kill sales, or I went too fast and you guys just listened or tuned out or something and don't have questions, because I feel like there would be questions if this information hits you at the right spot. So let me know what it is. Did I go too fast? Do you guys got it? What questions? I got a couple minutes here. Again, remember, if KPIs aren't figured out, you have that training I did takes 25 minutes to consume. It's at theCEONation.com. Go get it. I guarantee positive, even if you're tracking KPIs. If you go take time and feel like I stole 25 minutes of your life, let me know. I'll make sure somehow, some way I make it up to you. I think you'll really like it. What do we got, guys? Okay, cool. I got a question here. So, all right. So John just asked, how do you know when it's time to bring in the different levels of salespeople? Okay, great question, John. So I'll try to break this down somewhat strategically at a high level. It's kind of like being pregnant or getting married. There never is a perfect time to do either, right? But you kind of know. And just because you get to the place in your head where you're thinking it might be time, you're probably either really close or you're past it. So just know you're close if you're already feeling that, having that feeling in your business, right? I don't really like running your business based off feeling, but in the beginning, that's kind of part of what you have to go by. But here's where you need to realize that when you bring in an administrative person, you're going to want to get a 2 to 3 times return on that person. So here's what I mean by that. If I'm going to bring someone in for $15 an hour, 2,000 hours in a year, that's about a $30,000 a year salary. Good thing is I don't have to write them a check for 30 grand when they start. It's just 2,500 bucks, right? That's what it's going to cost me a month for a $15 an hour person. So I'm going to want to know, we covered this last week, by the way. I'm going to want to know that in the first couple months, by day 60, I shouldn't have anyone in my organization who I don't see how they're contributing to the bottom line. Even if it's someone who's just freeing me up so I'm not so busy, I need to understand from a money, bottom line, or time resource perspective how they're affecting my life as the business owner, right? Most typically, I'm going to want to know by day 60 that they're on a path, if not already there, getting very close to breaking even, so that the money I'm investing in this person is not only not costing me anything, but heading towards a return of 2 to 3x. And so that $30,000 a year person, I need to know that by the end of the first year, the 30 grand that I've spent with them is probably going to allow me or my salesperson to go out and sell another $100,000 worth of revenue three times, right? 3 times 30,000 be 90 grand. More realistically, the great assistant could probably help somebody do more than that. If I'm going to bring a salesperson in and pay them a percentage of sales, right? That percentage that I'm giving them, I'm going to want to know that I'm getting a 3 to 5 times return on that. With sales, especially outside sales, it's probably going to be more like a 5 times return. So if I've got a great salesperson coming in and they've got a $50,000 to $100,000 commission only opportunity with me, I'm going to want to know that they're going to bring in 250, right? 5 times that 50,000 to 50,000, maybe a 10x. Maybe if they make 100 grand, they're going to put $1 million of revenue on the bottom line. Depends on your model, right? But I'm going to be looking for at least probably a 5 times return off of an outside salesperson. So if they come in and they're going to make about 50 to 100 grand off of me, I'm expecting for 250 to 500 a gross revenue bump on the bottom line by having them around. So when you're trying to decide when it's time to make these moves, just realize what they mean to you. You probably don't need anyone until you're doing about 50 to 100 grand, or you're working more than 50 hours a week to 60 hours a week. So that's when the assistant comes into play. When there's money opportunity that's getting bigger where you can invest something, or when you're just so busy you don't have time to move forward without somebody, right? And then the inside salesperson is probably going to come when you realize as a salesperson, you know you can do more as the owner, or your sales guy can do more, but they just don't have enough time in the day to get with all the leads. That's when the inside salesperson comes into play. So you'll insert them so that that person can start to squeak more revenue out of the day. And then once you have done, you have a model that has administration, inside and outside sales broken apart amongst 2 or 3 different people, and you better understand your marketing spend, your return, and your sales conversion, how many leads go to a sales guy or gal and how they convert that to a sale. You need to understand the traffic in marketing and the conversion in sales, understand those ratios, have them figured out, and then you can invest in growing marketing scale or growing outside salespeople. So I hope that answers your question. Let me see what else we got here. Okay, so Darren said it was pretty straightforward. Knowing the KPIs is step one, like we talked about last week. So you know how to evaluate the ISA. Yes. I'm still on the job description responsibilities portion of my journey with this, but this presentation today was helpful. So let me address that really quickly. I only got a couple minutes left. I'm going to show you guys something. If anybody has any last minute questions, fire them in there before we. All right, I'm getting a weird thing on my screen, guys. Hold on 1 second. You guys comment in if you're my screen seems to be freezing. You guys see me okay? Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. That was weird. Zoom's crazy. I love it. But when I'm trying to do things on my computer and my video at the same time, sometimes my internet doesn't cooperate. So Darren, you said you're working on the job description portion. I'm going to show you guys something. If you were on last week, you saw us talking about this stuff. Are you guys seeing a score job fit summary? Somebody said my screen was stuck. Okay, cool. This, Darren, and if you guys are wondering for inside sales, let's talk about this. If you've not seen one of these before, this is our team architects company. This is what, when you're hiring a position, this one happens to be inside sales. We identify not 4 personality traits like most, like DISC or other Colby or other ones. We actually break it into several personality. So it's a deeper, more granular look, but we add cognition traits like rapid problem solving, logical problem solving, things like that. If you missed that last week, go watch last week's thing. I don't want to waste time on that because we're about out of time. But we create what we call an avatar for a position. So inside sales, remember, Darren, we talked about being able to engage and build rapport, extract contact info and situational info. You got to connect enough to get situational info, not email, phone number, whatever, but like, hey, what's got you calling in today? What's going on? So keep that in mind. And being able to connect at that level, if you guys haven't seen these reports before, these are the different traits that we're tracking for this specific job. Now, if this person was getting hired for outside sales, these would be different. If they were an admin, it'd be different. If they were a CEO, it'd be different. We custom fit this. So for inside sales, we've identified the 3 highest impact characteristics for this person is structure. Are they flexible or do they like rules? How well do they rapid problem solve? Because you never know what's calling in on the phone. And vocabulary is how well they process words and understand words and can understand what people are telling them because they have a deep understanding of words and they're able to speak more clearly to people because they can say better descriptive words, right? And so they need to communicate well. They need to be able to deal with whatever's going on the phone. And we need them to be somewhat structured, but also dynamic enough that, again, a salesperson is going to not want much structure. An admin is going to want heavy structure. Where these gray bars are, this is the sweet spot where we would want someone to land if they were like a unicorn inside salesperson. So if you guys are taking notes and thinking about hiring an inside salesperson, you're going to want someone who's moderately structured, but they can be a little flexible. They can go with the flow a little bit, but they do appreciate structure. You're going to want someone who can rapid problem solve more. These are hard to test because it's cognition. Many tests don't do that. Most, in fact, nearly none of them do. That's why we build our own, basically, was because of the cognition and then this concept of scoring. And then you're going to want to know that they communicate at a high level, right? This candidate happened to fit pretty well on these two, and they're not too far off up here. So they're not 100% fit, but they're 80, which is good. In our system, anyone who turns green, 67% fit or better, ends up being a high candidate who we would interview. If they're below that, I'm not even reading their resume. I'm not getting on the phone with them. I'm not wasting any of my time. So on down the path, Darren, to try to help more, is assertiveness. This candidate's very reserved. I want someone who's moderately aggressive, not heavily aggressive. And I need someone who can logically problem solve. They're a good fit for that. I need someone who's not too calm, but not too expressive, moderate. They're more task-oriented than people-oriented, but they're not all the way down here at the left. I need someone who's over here who can connect with people, but knows they got to get their crap done today, right? They're somewhat independent, but they have the ability to accommodate a little bit. They're moderately intense. They've got a healthy skepticism, so they're not too optimistic thinking, oh, everything's perfect. Whatever they said is true. I want them to have a healthy skepticism, but not be too skeptical, because they still got to believe that they can get a deal, create a good lead, right? And then spatial visualization, that's a tough one we don't have time for today. It's kind of like thinking outside the box. I need them to be able to listen to that person and look at things from different directions and say and tailor their approach to engage them. And so, Darren, think about if these are the characteristics of the person, and I know they need to engage and extract information, they need to be able to enter some data, they need to be able to edify the company. Well, in the job role, these are the things that go in there. It needs to be very specific. In the job ad, it's going to be, we need someone who's capable of staying on task, but likes to connect with people and help them. I need someone who can understand the big picture and relate that to a prospect on the phone. I need to know someone who's cool with being on the phone all day long, right? These are the things you write in the top of a job ad for someone to be like, oh, that's me. And then underneath that, you'll get a little more detailed with the specifics. Your ad doesn't need to be fluffy about a dynamic, growing, fast, cool company. And we're looking for a rock star. You know, you don't want hyperbole. You don't want fluff. People need to read the job ad and feel like I can see myself doing that job, right? And the job description is a more detailed view of that. It's like, look, I need you to be on the phone. I need you to enter data in the CRM. I need you to tee prospects up for sales. I need you to, right? You're going to put those things in there, and then you're going to talk more specifically about what systems and processes they use to do that. But it all goes together. And here's the kicker. The KPI thing, why it's so important, is that the KPIs you're going to track this person by is basically how many leads they can crank through get on a given day and how many they qualify. What percent of the leads that come in get qualified to move on to sales. The things they have to do to engage is stay on task and engage. It's these traits. It's all connected. The things I train them on is how to stay on task, how to engage, how to extract information. So the KPIs are so key because when I know what needs to be done, I know what kind of traits a person needs to be good at those things. Then I know that my training can lean into that and my compensation is designed around that. So it's all connected. All right. I'm 10 minutes over. I'm getting probably too deep. I hope that helps, Darren. I know that was a long-winded answer, but I know that's what you wanted to get out of this. So Darren said, yep, I get it now. That kind of flew over my head last week. I didn't realize how to incorporate these things into the ad. Yep. Think about it this way. Your ad is marketing. It's like literally sending a postcard to or a pay-per-click ad. What literally will resonate with your audience? Your audience is someone who's going to be great at this job. So for someone who kind of likes structure but wants to go with the flow, and they like to have problems and a challenge in their job to deal with, and they enjoy communicating at a high level, and they're capable of connecting with people, but they like to be able to check things off that day. And I want to know that they're calm enough to respect somebody and accommodate them a little bit, but independent enough to be able to put things forward, that need to be done in the call, right? When you talk like this to a person that is that kind of person, they're like, Darren, you're speaking my love language. I'm reading this ad. That's me. And they reply, this is just a job ad, is just marketing. And you're trying to get a response from your core audience. You write the marketing to attract your core audience and convert with the kind of person who's going to come in, right? Then you're going to utilize a tool like this, if it's not ours, something where you can qualify them, because just because they're attracted doesn't mean I don't even want to spend any time if I don't know they have the right personality, right? I'm going to get off this. This is not a Team Architects ad, but you're going to want to qualify them to make sure their personality is a good fit, and then spend time with them. Because if you can use some kind of tool like this, you can eliminate 80% of time wasted on screening resumes and deciding who to spend time with. And then when you sit down with someone, now you're focused on what experience they have. Is it related? And is there a core value fit? And is the compensation plan a fit? Core values and compensation are the two key things. And once I see them do well in a personality and cognition test, I do want to see related history, or know that I'm bringing someone on who doesn't have enough experience that I'm going to have to totally train this person up, which if you're a small business, probably shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be taking on your sister's cousin's boyfriend who needs a job and he's willing to do anything and work for $10 an hour. That will be the worst thing you can ever do. You'll think, oh, it's on the cheap and I'll train them, and I like to get them moldable and make them work. You need someone who can come in and just boom, hit the ground running, because the difference between having to spend your time training someone who doesn't quite get it and isn't a great personality fit will create a little bit of friction in your business and will slow you down as a business owner. That friction, in comparison to the momentum when you bring someone in who's ready to roll and they take off with this because they're the right person, the difference between that momentum and friction is another doubling in sales, doubling in growth. Slight friction, slight momentum is night and day difference in your business. And when you're a small business owner, you don't need any friction. Put on top of that a little bit of administrative help to make sure things aren't slipping through cracks. Whether it's you by yourself or a team, think about setting and closing in your sales model, and then create a lockdown, ironclad follow-up system and asking for referrals and testimonials from your clients. That is a recipe to take a business that's doing 50, 100 grand or whatever and grow that thing to $1 million. I know that stuff. If you guys can take that and document that and figure out a way to apply it, it will easily allow you to double your revenue in business. So, all right, I've been running long. Let's see. I got a couple more things here. What's the best website to hire a great VA to help scale marketing, admin, or sales? So it's from Jaspreet. Jaspreet, there's a couple of them. Riva Global is one that I can connect you with, and we've had a lot of good success with Rocket Station. If you want a personal referral, you got my contact info. DM me or text me, and I'll connect you a salesperson at Rocket Station. They're a little more expensive. They're not the $2 or $3 an hour, which a lot of newbie business owners think that's what they want. But the $9 an hour or whatever we pay, we get someone who's fully trained, and there's an entire staff and infrastructure. So if anybody's hiring a VA, just realize one of the biggest problems outside of getting someone who's capable of doing things for you, the right kind of things, is managing that person. If you've never, especially if they're in the Philippines, if you don't know, like when monsoon season happens, these people will go off the grid for like days at a time. You don't even know if they're alive. It's crazy, but they just lose internet and they're gone. Right. And dealing with paying them is a challenge, converting the money and dealing with all that. So you definitely want to work with someone who's got an infrastructure in place. Okay. Make sure you guys, I am going to, you guys are funny because 2 people texted me for that link. You can just chat me on the screen, by the way. All right. I just sent the link out again. If you want to talk about any product services, got any questions that you want to run, please engage in the Facebook group. We don't have a great engagement in there right now. And I know a lot of you guys are DMing me and texting me and whatever. If you're emailing me, by the way, I'm not seeing it because I don't do email hardly at all anymore. But I'm having a lot of conversations outside of the group that would be great to have in the group, because not only would it be helpful to other people to see these questions get asked and answered, I have less and less time right now, and I'm making less time to answer things than I want to for you guys. But also, I know there's 500 other people in that group that can pile in and help. So take advantage of that group. Let's see. I'm gonna kill that question. You guys got the link. Don't forget about the KPI guide. If you haven't gotten that, grab it. So the replay of this, if you're on the Zoom, is in the Facebook group. And I will do my best to create some kind of PDF handout of the slides I did today and make sure I send those out. Is there anything before we jump off today that anybody has? Any questions, any last things I can help with? All right. I have no idea what next week's topic is, but I will be back next Monday at 3:30 Eastern. And you guys know how to get a hold of me in between. Everybody take care. Good seeing everybody. Have a good week.